Computer, here we go. All right, we are now recording. All right, creating a new project. We're going to do something very, very simple. We're not getting any additional leverage. There she is. Cassie's in. All right. I'm going to chop this out of the video if you feel like it. All right. Just so you know, Cassie, we've started doing a recording, so anything you say and or do might be captured. So just be aware of that. I'd like people knowing. Just be aware.
Cliff, should we create a specific folder for anything that we're doing right now?
I would recommend at least another project for this, for the code along. So you definitely want to code along with me, type along with me. That's part of the reason why we're also recording, so you can always follow along again afterwards. So if you fall behind or just want to do it a second time, you can. But I definitely recommend creating a project for this so you can follow along. All right, so I am using version 14, just so you know. I think Mosh was using an older version possibly, but 14 is fine. So don't feel like you have to follow his version. The differences I haven't seen any issues with the version numbers we've been using. So I think he uses 12, I don't remember. But yeah, here we go. Next all the way through. We're not gonna do anything. This is gonna be cohort. I'm just gonna actually do 11 just to make it simple. Keep it short, finish on that. We'll do this window so you can close out the evening class, the morning classes stuff. All right. Let's go ahead and get our main class. I did not actually create one automatically. Wait a minute. Why did I do that? Usually always creates an automatic main class. All right, whatever. Create main. Hold on, there's something wrong here. Why did it not create that by default?
Yeah, you don't have a main. You don't have a package.
Oh, I know what I did. I did wrong. I actually remember what I did. All right. So we do actually want to. Where is it? Like in the console project. Oh, there it was. I didn't click this. So in the new project, create project template, command line app. That's what we want. That's what I forgot to bring in. I also spelled cohort wrong, so that works. Cohort 11. Cohort. That works. And yet it still makes this really long bar. I don't know why it does that. All right, here we go. So now we have our com.company and our main. There we go. That's what I've been missing. Nice. It's still good to see, of course, what's there. You do want to make sure that if it didn't work, we could do it. If I really wanted to, I could have just had to remember those. So you would have to create a package first and then the main class. And this is the code you want. But all I'm going to do here, let's start with the first basic stuff. This is the first thing you code in any language when you're first starting.
Hello world.
Let's do it. First, we have the nice shortcut. But the first couple times, I would recommend typing it out first just to get used to it. Fine. Hello. Let's give it a career desk flare though. You do hello career desk. Run, make sure everything works. And part of it we do this is also not just to make sure we do the canonical hello world, but also just make sure that everything worked. That you created the project fine, that it's functioning, that there's nothing wrong, no weird errors that are from just the standard setup. So this is the other part of the reason why I tend to do this, just make sure that everything installed and set up correctly. Sound good? All right. And so what we're going to create here is we're actually going to create a bank system. We're going to create bank systems. We're going to create bank classes. But let's first actually get the practice with the car class. We'll first practice with car classes, and then tomorrow we'll actually create the bank items. So let's actually create a car class first. So I'm actually going to create a new package just for the, actually no class yet. No package, let's do class. So car. And we want to give it some fields. So common fields for a car. Every single car has. What are some properties of a car?
Color.
And color. So I tend to go default to private, and then we'll talk about that more as we go. Color. I've got the data type. String. There we go. What else? Someone else.
The model.
Model. Oh, yeah, all cars have a model. That works. That's something we could get from the child class. The child class could send that up. What else we got?
The VIN.
Got real detailed. Yep, private VIN. Something else, something other than a string, people.
Number of wheels.
Yeah, tires, tire count.
A year.
Count. Yeah. A year, and that could be an int. Because we might do math on it. We might actually decide to perform math on it. How old is the car? So we could actually do since it's math. And that's one of those things whenever you're dealing with something that is a number, always ask yourself, are we going to do math on this or do we just want to print it? If you're just going to print it and you're never going to do any sort of mathematical equations on it, tend to just store it as a string. That way you don't accidentally lop off any sort of numbers and you don't have to do the typecasting every time you want to print it. So let's do one more field. What else can we do?
Could you do like a Boolean for like running or not? Or
Yeah.
if it
And this is a common syntax for Booleans is to prefix it with like is or has or ask. So that way it kind of sounds like a question or a statement. Is on, true or false. I would, if you ask me, hey, is the car, that car, is it on? You would say either yes or no. You would give me that binary answer, yes, no, true, false. So you usually want to make sure that when you're doing a Boolean, that the variable for it usually kind of asks that question so that you have that predisposition to knowing, oh, this is a Boolean. Because I obviously see that this is probably a yes or no item, then I know it's a Boolean. I don't have to look up the top to see it. So this is good syntax, good practice with Boolean values to do is or has or have it be kind of like a question or a statement. Something that, again, another concept we learn about called clean code is the idea behind this. Clean code is that you can understand what something is just by reading it with no comments. We'll get into that later though. So we have some items. Let's go ahead and do a constructor. We're going to do public. Now the constructor is public class name. That's your constructor. That's the syntax of a constructor. Very, very simple. We're going to give it the information here. We're going to get what information we're going to get from the system that is creating or instantiating or bringing this item into existence. So in this case, we'll probably want the color, model, the VIN, the tire count, the year. Now, what about the is on? Are we going to ask if the instantiation, is there a chance that the car will ever be brought into existence already on, or is it a pretty static starting value?
A static value. We could keep it off, right?
Yeah, we could start it off and when we first get it. So I can put it up here. I could also do it in the constructor to set it to false by default, to starting value. So starting values can go here, or you can also start the value inside the constructor as well. So more commonly, you'll see the default value starting in the constructor when it has to do with like a collection or something, like with lists or arrays. Because if you ever want to reinstantiate something, potentially you can at least reset that array or reset that item and not use the same address. So mostly kind of though, if it's like a Boolean or an int or a string, something simple, the default value is done up in the actual declaration of those fields. So you'll declare and define at the same point. So let's clarify again. So let's make sure we understand what those two terms are. So those are two terms of art that I want to make sure are very, very clear. Declare and define. So right here, in this line here, or these lines here, can someone tell me what part of, let's say, yeah, for here, what part of this line is the declaration? So there, yeah, what part of this line of code is the declaration?
Right-hand side. Wait, no. Declaration. That's the left-hand side. Sorry.
Declaration. We declared a private Boolean called is on, right? And so
Yes.
by process of elimination, someone else, what would this side be then?
Define.
Yeah, the definition, right? Yeah, this is defining what is on is. This is giving it a value. This is giving it something.
English is fun.
Very true. Except I didn't like the class in high school because they did stupid things, but we won't get into that. So let's go ahead and actually like set these all up. So part of the reason why we do the variable names inside of a constructor to be the same name as the field is so that it's easy to map up. We know exactly how they go. We're not trying to guess what's what. So in this case, we just do this dot color equals color. Just kind of repeat that process. This dot model equals model. It just makes our life easy. Shortcuts that Visual Studio Code are way different from that IntelliJ has a different Visual Studio Code. So it's not bin equals bin. Tire count equals tire count. And this dot year equals year. And just to visually see it, if we did want to define is on here, we could actually just do is on equals false. And again, we can do that because there is no locally scoped is on variable that this could accidentally grab. There's no is on here inside the method, so it's going to go to the closest one that can find, which is this one here. So we don't need to do this is on to reference that. Now you might see some developers do it just because all the others have it, so might as well just do it here just to keep consistent. Is it required? No. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question, just for some clarification.
Yep.
I tend to overcomplicate this.
Go
I
for it.
used to, and I thought I had an idea for it again, but there was a specific name when you use the getters or setters. And let's just say that you identify it, you create like a private string color, and then you use this method, or I don't know if it's technically a method.
This keyword.
Keyword. What exactly is that called again? When you assign it once again, like
So you
this
reassignment. What
color
do you mean?
equals color.
So this is just we're defining the first item. So because this dot color has no definition yet, this is us defining it the first time.
Okay.
So
Okay,
these lines we simply declared. We declared these variables. They have no definition yet. There's no value, so they're all undefined. They have a data type. They are declared, but they're not defined yet. There's nothing inside of them. By doing this, we actually put something inside, so now they are actually defined.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Got
Right there. Which actually, funny thing is, keep in mind, actually, even methods have declaration and definition process parts as well. So besides the two that just spoke, what part of this method is the declaration?
Are you asking me that?
Oh, not you, anyone.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that your question specifically, but yeah, you've already talked, so I feel like you can hold back if you want, but if no one answers, you can jump in. Yeah, there are the two that answered before.
Public car.
So public car is the declaration, right? Is
Yep.
that the only part of it, or is there more?
I would say the whole
Yeah.
part within the parentheses as well.
Everything
All
before
the
the
This-
curly bracket.
parameters.
Everything up to the curly bracket is your declaration. You're declaring a public car method that takes these variables here, because I can create a second version of this, which if I do this and actually take out tire count, because there is kind of a default behavior. If I ask for a car, there's kind of a default number of tires on a car, right? We have a standard number of tires on a car. So I could say that, you know what, if we don't get that, what I could do is just say, okay, well, if they don't give me the tire count, I'm going to just say it's 4. If they give me the tire count, I'm going to set it. But if they don't tell me the tire count, I don't need it. I'm just going to assume 4 because that's a standard for a car, right?
Yep.
And so what's this doing though? Let's start with that before we go back to the original terminology. We now have 2 car constructors. What is that? When we do that, what is that called?
Overloading.
And this is an example of overloading. We have the same method. Because of the parameters, we can overload the behavior with this one to say, overload the behavior by adding context. Like I said before, yeah, if I mention a car, you're gonna picture in your head a four-wheeled car, a 4-tire car, right?
Of course.
You're not gonna be picturing a 16-wheeler automatic when I say car, right? For us, cars, even though a 16-wheeler is a car, we tend to picture the 4-wheel cars, right? There are trikes out there. There are motorcycles. Those are considered vehicles. Like they are, but I guess they wouldn't be really considered a car though. They would have vehicle, then car, vehicle, bike. But you get the idea that there's this certain item that pops into your head when we say car. So if I say, hey, I need a car, you might give me, the color, the model, the VIN, and then the year, and you wouldn't tell me the tires unless it was different from the number from 4, right? So that's usually when you would tell me that, oh yeah, by the way, this car has 6 tires because it's I don't know why, but it does. So that would be kind of the idea here. And this is an overload. So now in this one, again, this is the declaration. So these are the 2 different declarations. We declared 2 different types of car methods. So now what part of this is the definition? What lines of the definition? Someone else. Someone I heard from. No, I want to hear voices that I haven't heard yet.
Is it lines 12 through 17?
Yeah, these make sense, right? Yeah, this kind of defines what this method does, right? This is the definition of what the method does. It's like, oh yeah, we declared this method, but what does it do? Well, this is the definition. This says, well, when we call this method, this is what it should do. And if you think about that's what a definition does. A definition defines what something is, right? It tells you what it does, what it is, what its purpose is. When you look in a dictionary for the definition of a word, you're looking at as to what the word is, what that word does, what that word's purpose is, right? That's what this is. This code is the definition for that method because it tells that method what to do, how does it act, what's its purpose is. So there you go. Declaration, definition, overloads. Good stuff.
And the constructor is considered a class method?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. These are methods. So yeah, we have, these are the fields. So these are your fields. Normally used to be called variables, but now we're calling them fields. These used to be, you used to call these functions. They are now methods. So some slight terminology change between JavaScript and Java. Depending on what I was coding, what I've been reviewing in the past, you might hear me swap. But since I've been doing a lot of Java teaching recently, I'm actually getting the names correct more often than not. Usually when I start teaching Java, I'll tend to say function and variable a lot, even though that's wrong. But yeah. And last terminology, what are, when you have these items, these variables inside of the parentheses, what are these called? When they're inside the parentheses of a method, what are they called?
Parameter.
Parameters. Yes, these are the parameters for the method. So if you're thinking it, and one of the things I'll say, even if you don't speak out loud, you should always have a guess for any question I ask. Always think about it. So we're not trying. So the reason why I say that, the reason why I mention that is we're not necessarily trying to teach you to become developers. That is the end goal. But what are we really teaching you to become? What is the term we're calling? What are a lot of you going to be called? You're developers, but you're also computer scientists, right? And that word scientist. What do scientists do?
Experiment.
Yeah, they experiment, right? And what's the first phase of an experiment? What's the first part of an experiment?
Hypothesis.
Exactly. Yeah, ask a question or the hypothesis. Oh, yeah, damn it. Ask a question is first, I think. Or do they come up with a hypothesis first and then create the question for the hypothesis? I actually don't know.
Like observation, I think maybe.
I need to double check now. My analogy just fell apart. But the main point I was trying to grab is, the hypothesis concept. So as a scientist, you want to have hypothesis. You always want to have an idea of an answer. So we're kind of skipping the observation because we're watching. We got the question, what is this? So I did those two parts. So we observed our code. We then asked the question about this. And so the next thing everyone should have as a scientist is a hypothesis. You should definitely have a guess as to what it is, even though it may not be right, even though it may be wrong, and that's fine. We know that scientists are allowed to be wrong, right? Hell, a lot of times scientists' hypotheses tend to be wrong because they're testing something they don't necessarily know. So it's okay for you to be wrong with your hypothesis, but the goal is you should always have one. And then what a scientist tends to do is find out, why was their hypothesis wrong? What were they missing? What did they not know? It's not just about saying, well, I think this was going to happen. Well, this is what happened. That I'm good. No, the final part of any sort of experiment is then to evaluate that result, compare it against the hypothesis. Why was your hypothesis wrong? And that's how you grow and learn more. And you get better at your system because you don't just take what happens at face value. You understand what the answer is and why you didn't get the answer right. Sound good? Always. Even if you've already answered and you're not allowed to answer, even if you're a little shy, always come up with a hypothesis, engage it, and don't be disgruntled if you're wrong. If you're never wrong, why are you here? If you're never wrong with your hypothesis, you don't have to be in creatives. You should already have the job, right? So that's something to keep in mind. So if you're making guesses and getting them wrong, you're right where you belong. If you're giving answers and they're getting right, push yourself forward so that you get to those questions you don't know. And so or you keep going through, you never go wrong and you're in the job sooner. So keep that in your mind. Always have a hypothesis. If you're never wrong, start pushing more because that means you're not challenging yourself enough. And that means you should be farther than you are. And if you are wrong, you're right where you need to be and you need to start evaluating why you're wrong and start learning from them. Cool. So you got our two constructors. Let's create a simple method. What's a good method that every single car should have based on the items we have up here?
Drive.
What is drive, and what does that one do?
We could check to see if the car is on, and then if it is, do driving stuff.
Yeah, we can do that. We can start with that one. Public. Void drive. So what does that void mean?
Returns nothing.
Good. Yeah, that's true. It's not going to return anything to whoever called it. Now, we might print something, we might display something, we might make changes, but we're not going to give anything back to the system. And we shouldn't unless that's the whole purpose of it. If its design is to get a value or to return a value. The drive really doesn't seem like it should return anything. It should just print out or display a status. Now, it could do Boolean, but for now, I'll do void. I tend to do a lot of my methods, start them as void, and then realize, okay, I need to return something. Let me change it. We say, okay, well, if is on, and now you can see why this variable name is really useful. If is on, do something, right? And it reads really nicely, doesn't it? It almost reads like English. And this is where clean code and good variable names really become a powerful thing, because that is very, very nice to read if you think about it. And that's where you want to really be good with your variable names. So if is on, and it's out. Moving. And then, even though we have a void, what we can do is we can still do a return statement. So we return nothing here, and I do the return statement. What does that do for me?
Cliff, I have a quick question before we do the return stuff.
Oh, go for it.
Is on is set to false? Would it have to be if is on equals true?
Well, not quite, because again, we're just we don't care what is on actually is. We're just using it to say if it is on, we can move.
Okay.
So if it's false, then it's not on, and we should not move.
Okay.
Right? It's not static where it can't be modified.
Okay.
So this can be modified. Now, that's a good point to point out that we currently have no way of turning the car on, do we?
Yeah.
That is something to keep in mind. So well, I'm hearing dishes or something. They're loud.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
All good. So yeah, system.out.println moving. So if the car is on, we want to move. If not, we want to say the car on first. Very blunt, right? Let them know, hey, the car needs to be turned on before you try to drive it. Turn it on. And currently, if we leave it like this, we're going to get both lines, right? If the car is on. If the car is not on, we'll get one. But no matter what, this line is always going to print right now. Now, normally, a lot of you would probably do this, right? Add the else and do this. This is most commonly what you would do, right? But it seems a little redundant to do this if-else system and then have nothing after the if statement. And we're just indenting for no reason. And if I do return here, what does that do to this method? If I hit line 32, what happens?
It ends the function. Like it'll stop the method for that.
It ends the method early, right? We don't go below no matter what. So now I don't necessarily need the else because I'm only going to hit line 34 if line 30 is false, right? I will only hit line 34 if line 32 is never hit. And the only way I won't hit this line is if this is false. And so this can keep your if statements from getting too indented. And so whenever you're doing an if statement, you always want to try to look for an if statement that is going to end early. And that might mean that sometimes you're looking for the negative, not the positive. In this case, it's fine. Our positive just prints out. But if we were actually going to do something with our car being on, like let's say we're going to, okay, well, let's go ahead and start the acceleration process. Let's make sure they're pressing on the pedal. How hard are they pressing? We're going to do a whole bunch of logic. We wouldn't want to have all that logic inside this indentation, right? We want to keep all that long amount of code as much to the left as possible, right? And so it might be better to actually switch this to if not is on, what I think Ava was leaning towards. Put our item here and then move any actual logic of what we want to do if the car is actually on, outside of it and tend to look for the negative to say, hey, return this early. There is nothing we're ever going to do in the drive if the car's off. We're not going to auto turn on the car because we should never let, if someone goes in and tries to drive the car and they shouldn't be allowed, we don't want the car to automatically turn on. Oh, hey, they hit the gas pedal. Go ahead. We don't want that, right? We should always check for the key. So we have that. So this is probably the better system to look at. And 100%, if you're doing if statements, try to find the if return concept, if there is one. Now, sometimes there's not, and fine, go if else. That's okay. But if you can, try to find the if return so that way you don't need to do another indentation for the rest of your code. This is going to make your code cleaner. It's going to simplify your indentation. It's going to make, for those of you who are bad at indentation, it's going to help you, which trust me, I know there are those students out there that are not like me with indentation. I very much prefer indentation. I like it. It helps me a lot. It makes sure I don't forget my curly brackets. I really, really value my indentation. And there are a lot of developers that are interviewers that do care about indentation. So if your indentation is not consistent, that can hurt you in an interview. This is going to be the only thing they remember. I definitely, for those students over there who, any of the students that have dealt with me before, I know those who have bad indentation. I remember you guys because those things stick out in my head. Unfortunately, that is one of those few things of developer pet peeves that I have. Now, all developers like that? No, you might get lucky. Your interviewer may not care about indentation. But if you were getting interviewed by someone like me, indentation could kill your interview. And that's a problem. So I highly recommend you pay attention to it. It's going to help you out a lot.
So just to clarify,
yes,
when you have a preference to return if the if case is true, I guess,
yeah.
Is that more of just for like our sake as humans, and does that affect like the performance of the application going forward, or is it just like a
for if else? No, because in an if statement, if this is true, it doesn't evaluate anything below in the
Right.
else concept at all. So it doesn't really benefit the computer too much. Now, if you have multiple if statements, we have if else, that can change performance because it has to actually evaluate each of those conditionals until it finally hits the end. So if you have if else, so 4 ifs and then an else, it does actually check those ifs until it hits the first one that's true, then it stops. So that's why you usually want to try to make the least like the one you want to happen the most often, or the hardest one to hit at the top. So the less likely it is to hit, you want that at the top so that those are evaluated soon. But at the same time, if you have one that is the most common to trigger, having that at the top is going to benefit you as well. So if you have 2 if statements, one that is more likely to trigger and one that is less likely to trigger, and they can't accidentally trigger both, it's not possible to trigger both, have the one that's more likely up at the top more, because that's going to stop the if conditional checking, and then it'll jump to the bottom of the if statement when done. So if this if statement was in here, this return statement was in here, whenever an if is triggered, it always jumps to the final closing block of the whole if structure.
Right.
So yeah. But this system right here, what I created today, with just a simple if else, there's no performance improvement on this. It's just the idea of by doing the return on the if, I don't need the else and I don't need the indentation. It's going to make my code a lot cleaner. So those are a lot of tips I'm also going to give you guys as ways to make your code just look like not a junior level, an associate level developer, but a junior level developer. We want you guys looking like you have a couple years in the field already. We want you going in there looking like, hey, I got this. I know what I'm doing. You don't want to come off as student. So that's kind of part of what we go for here. Is I'm going to show you exactly how you should be coding to give that that feeling that you do have the understanding. It's not just coding and getting it working, but also coding that looks nice too, so that you can kick the butt of any other person coming out of a college or coming out of a class. They're like, wait, this person said they just took a year in coding and they code like this? What? They think of that? What? Wait, how? So that's kind of what we're going for with you guys. And that's what I'm going to give you on this. So, and again, for me, it's just, I don't know if anyone's ever looked at it, but having those massive if nested items just can be really scary and like dizzying to look at. When you have massive amounts of indentation, and get really, really dizzying. And so that's part of why I do this as well, is to keep my indentation as low as possible, because we get really, really dizzying to figure out where things are and what things are doing. So, you have that. For this to really work, we need one more method in our car class. we talked about what it might be. What do we need?
A setter for the Boolean is on.
Oh, yeah, we need to be
Or-
able to change it, right?
Yeah.
So the simple one, yeah, public set on, or set is on. Actually, if I saw that correctly, what's fascinating about it is that if you notice, it actually recommends a set on because it recognizes that is part of that. So what I'm creating, this concept of is on, is actually recognized by Java as a common site item. So it knows to do set on is on and not do set is on. So my stuff is not crazy. So this is the most simplistic version. Set is on, and that means it'll set it to whatever we send it. What I'm going to show you is a slightly better version of this, because for me that means I could send true to a card that's already on. And what happens if you try to turn a card on that's already on?
Double start.
It makes a horrible noise, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It tries to make a horrible noise. So for me, my item would be public void toggle on. And I would just do is on equals not is on. Who understands what that's doing? How that works? So if on is false, not false is,
True.
and if on is true, not true is. So this is a very safe item, and this would kind of mimic your push button start cars. So this is very much mimicking what your key cars do. If you try to turn it when it's already on, it's sending true to the already true statement, and you're creating that horrible noise. If you turn the key to the off position, you're sending false. It's going to turn the car false. And again, if you're going to put the key into the false position again, you're sending false to false, nothing happens. So maybe you turn on your radio. But that's kind of what this is. This is your key-based ignition system where you're asking for true or false and then setting it to true or false depending on, regardless of where it already is, which can cause problems. The toggle on is more reminiscent now of your push button cars where you hit it. If it's already on, it turns the car off. If the car is off and you hit it, it turns the car on. You're just toggling the car. Sound good? And this way we're not just statically setting car values. And another thing we could always do is add in the logic saying, hey, is the brake pressed down or not? I think in a lot of push button cars, when you turn a car on, the brake has to be pushed. But yeah. These are two variations of the same thing. This is your standard setter, and this is a more customized variation. But either one works, just like showing two different variations. Any questions on how these work? All good? Nice. Awesome. And just for the fun of it, if you wanted to do this, one thing we could do, of course, is also just do set on, not on. Actually use the other method.
Now is does that matter? Is one
No.
best practice? No. Okay.
For these two methods here, it's based on the item. And for me, it's mostly just, again, I like the idea of kind of being wary of setters being so just static like this, where it gives a lot of power to other classes. And this is where we're going to start talking about encapsulation and abstraction. You want to abstract these things away. And so in set on, for example, if we just do set on, we just let it do whatever it wants. This is, again, just kind of being like, well, why isn't the item just public then? Might as well just make it public. But the difference is what I could do now is I could actually add some logic, say if is on and on. So if they're both true, I should probably tell it, I should probably just do s out, screech, and yell at them. So they know they just tried to turn the car on a second time. Again, do another return. If not is on and not on, so if both are false, dot out. I didn't do the shortcut for some reason. Video starting. So we could add in that logic now. to show those other behaviors that can happen. This is what setters should really be. Setters shouldn't be just a way to just statically set a value, because then you're just making it public. Setters should really have some sort of logic in them. And then getters have that same option. One thing we're going to talk about very soon is in the bank class, getters, like getting the account details. We should really probably only get that if we're the owner of the account, huh? And so we could add logic to make sure that the person requesting the data details is allowed to get the details. And so these are what getters and setters should really look like. If you just have a getter and a setter that are both just static values that just either set it or return it, just make it public, and then you can just access it via dot notation. So if you have public values and getters and setters, that is 100% a waste of your time. So that is the one thing I will tell you right now. So if you have a public variable or public field and a getter and a setter for that public field, you just wasted your time in code. So these are things you want to start being aware of. So you have that.
Wait, so you said if you have a getter and a setter for a public field?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Because you can just modify those with the dot notation in the main class, which I'll probably change one of these to public just so you can see what that looks like. Probably do the model. Make that public for the moment just so you can see what happens. So do that. Okay. I'll leave those there. So let's go ahead. Go to main. Let's actually create this class, and then we'll do the child classes tomorrow. We'll actually do the bank tomorrow, and we'll do those. So yeah. Car. My car. New car. Ask for color, model, VIN, tire count, and year, or don't need to give the count. So what color car do we want?
Blue.
Blue, nice. All right. What model car we get? I did single quotes. Dang it. While I do that, somebody think of a model. What model car do we have?
Subaru.
Subaru. Try to give me with a difficult spelling name car. Thanks. Luckily, Japanese cars sound exactly like they pronounce, so or spell exactly the way they're pronounced. So I'm not tricked by that one. And let's see, what was the next one? A VIN number. What do we want to give it? What's the VIN for this?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Best password, right? What's our year? What's the make? The year of our car?
2021.
We got a future car. Got it. Nice. That's the tire count. Dang it.
We pre-ordered.
Forgot tire count first. If we want to do the year, we have to do tire count. Oh, never mind. If I do, I just have to do that. Okay. So yeah, year. Never mind. I'm not gonna give it a tire count.
No, it was perfect.
No, I'm not giving our car 2021 tires.
Maximum efficiency.
I have a feeling that is
that
not
is overload efficiency.
that weight is going to slow the hell down of our car. It's going to be a 100% gas guzzler to try to turn 2021 tires.
Level 99 car.
There you go. So yeah, we got our car. Let's go ahead and let's do, oh, hey, we have no way of actually, yeah, I just realized we have no way of printing the details, do we? So yeah, here we go. My car, if I do this and I do the, let's do S out for a second, do my car dot, what is it? Really the model, right? Model is a public value, so I can go ahead and just do dot notation to get it, right? I can get the model, print it out, perfectly fine. Hit play. We'll see. There's our model. The problem with, of course, the model now being public is I can also do this. So let's say you didn't like Subaru. What's a model? What's a more fancier car that we can get?
A Tesla.
There we go. Is that a model? No. What's a model of Tesla?
Toshiba.
They have the Roadster. What is it? X, I think it is, right? That's one of their models for a Tesla car, right? I think it's called the Roadster.
I think so.
X. I think that's one of them. I know they're Roadsters. I just don't know what the specific name is for like their best one. So yeah, like Tesla's the brand. But yeah, Roadster X. So now if we look at this and I do the S out my car dot model again, I just converted my 2021 Subaru to a 2021 Roadster X.
It's quite an upgrade.
I know, and it doesn't sound like there's something that I can actually do, does it? I can't just modify my car's model on the fly, can I? I can't just snap my fingers and have my car morph into a different car, can I? Sounds awesome, but I can't do that unless we're in a video game or something. And so this is where the private and public come into play. In public, I can access items freely both to display the data, but also assign the data. I can change the data at any moment with no restrictions, as long as the data type matches. When I make something private and I create a getter, I can now put restrictions in place. I can now set barriers. I can set guidelines. I can set requirements. I can also create restrictions for getters too. And so that's where your access modifiers really benefit you as a developer. Again, I'm going to give a couple more examples of when not doing access modifiers greatly can be a real problem in our bank system. It's going to make a little more example there. I'll show you what I can do there in that one. But this is a simple example. I'm just going to do a quick method right here, just we have it. Public. Details. Nope. What do we want? What's our printout going to be? We want to display. A couple of voices I still haven't heard from. I don't think I've heard Richard speak. I don't know if I heard. Has Emilio said something? I don't know. A couple of voices. I know there's some voices I haven't heard yet today. I gotta keep track though. Maybe I have heard Richard. I don't know. Yeah. So what's our printout? If you haven't spoke yet, here's an easy one.
Actually, I have a suggestion, if you may.
Go for it.
Okay, so IntelliJ IDEA actually has this generate functionality. I believe if you go under the code tab at the top, click that and you should see.
May not like
generate.
this.
Yeah.
I hate those.
You hate this?
Yeah, because they teach you how to, now, if you're using them to learn, but you don't use them constantly, I'm okay. But I don't like when people get too used to them and they use them
yeah.
instead of typing it themselves, because they're like, oh, I don't need to understand how this works. I can just use the generate method. So what are we doing now? We'll do it once just to see it, but. The getter. I select a single one, right?
String, right?
There is that one. If I want to do a toString, that's yeah. I guess we could do a toString. That would be an override. So again, I'm not going to use the item. So every object in Java has a toString method. This just is how you convert the object to a string. And so you can use it in system.outs. You can use it in other systems that require string. You can just stringify it. And so this one, I'm going to do the public toString. Pretty sure that's the override, right? Yeah. I just need to do return string. That makes it happy. And so this is just a toString method that every single object has, and you can just override its behavior so that you can tell it how this item should display if we want a string of it, a string information. So
I have a quick question.
Go for
about the override. Is that called a flag?
Yes.
Oh, okay. What does it do in Java?
It lets the constructor know that you're overriding a parent class, so it knows to check for it.
So, because I wasn't using that before and it was working just fine. What does it give you, like extra error checking, or?
It's basically that. Yeah, it doesn't change any functionality of the code. Well,
I
this
did not.
one
Java didn't require it. Oh, I have always typed it in that I actually did not know that Java didn't require it, because other languages do require the override keyword. So I am actually not aware that you didn't have to do override. Really? You don't?
For some other attributes, you do have to define them though.
Interesting.
But the override is completely fine.
I would put it in anyway, just so that you know that there is an original. Yeah, it's always, again, a lot of Java developers are what I like to call explicit developers. They like to put in more information than necessary, so you know what it's doing, that you know that it's there, that you're aware of your other parent classes. But yeah, I actually did not know that was optional. Cool, I'm learning stuff. I started with C#, just so you guys, so everyone here knows I did start with C#, I think, and C. And I'm pretty sure I thought the override was required in C#. I'm gonna have to go double check to see if I was right on that. Anyway, so yeah. Again, how do we want to print the details of our car? How do we want to start it? You see our properties up here. We have our color, model, VIN, tire count, year. Any ideas?
We could do, you are driving a color, make, model, or you could just do basic like colons, color, make.
You could do that, but I like this. I actually like your idea of being kind of Englishy with it. So a color, a blue. (2021) model. There. Now,
Are there better ways to write these strings? Because I hate
there
this.
are other variations. Yes, if we weren't returning the string, I was going to do, there is actually something called printf, which is print format, and you can use placeholders. So I'm going to show that one here. Public void, display details, s out. I'm going to do print line and do printf, which is print format. And we can do, you are driving a s, s, %s. Oh, wait, year's an integer, so I'm pretty sure that's the one I want. And then here we're going to do color, year, model. So these are the placeholders, a string placeholder, a integer placeholder, and a string placeholder. I also could do n for number, I believe. I think this is valid.
If you're looking for a version that's kind of more similar to the backticks in JavaScript, I like message format.
What's
if
that?
You haven't used that one. Message format, which is a package that you need to import. But it's
okay, so it's something you would have to bring in, so it's not default. Okay, so yeah,
yeah, but it is at least built into Java.
Good. Okay, so message format. That one I'm not familiar with. So yeah, definitely look into that one.
That one's a little bit easier to deal with because you don't have to consider what like the string placeholder versus number placeholder.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit less strict than.
I'm familiar with this because of my practice in C. So this is how you do it in C. Yeah, the idea here is that you put the placeholder, which is the data type, and then just in the same order. So this is the first one. It's going to go to the first string placeholder. This is going to go to the second placeholder, which of course should match, and it's going to go to the third placeholder, which should also match. Let's see how these both work. Main. Oop, I don't know what I just hit. I hit enter twice and I moved somewhere. What did I just do? I don't know what happened. Okay. So now we're going to do another syst out. S out. We'll do the first one, which is going to be the toString. So my car dot toString, because that's not going to actually print it. That's just going to return the string. And here we're going to do my car dot display details. Print. If any of my printf items is wrong, this won't print correctly. Yeah, I got that %n is wrong because I think now that's a new line. So let's do %s again in that. Try again. Or %i, but let's try it. Let's do %s for a second, see if it lets me. I'm conflicting my printf with my C knowledge. Oh, it worked. Okay, cool. So it's just fine. That's fine. All right. We'll double check what the percentage S's are again, but yeah. Anyway, you can see there, pretty much the same. Except I did driving without an N there, which is fine. You can at least tell the difference. This is the one from the display details. This is the one from the toString.
Can you go back to the main file?
Of course. Any questions on the code we have right now?
I get an error saying when I put in the year.
Sure, let me do this quick and then we'll actually have you share your screen so you can take a look at what broke. Do that. Stop share. Go ahead and share your screen, please. which I've now enabled.
Yeah.
Gabe has gone psychedelic, I noticed, by the way.
I figured out how to put my own custom videos in there. So I'm gonna
Of course
do
you
that.
did.
Yeah. I was like, wait a second, why have I not done this yet?
As long as you don't start playing what is it, Star Wars in the back behind you, I'm okay. No movies going on in the background.
Only the videos that I create myself.
All right, no. All right, so let's see what we got here. So what's our error? Let's show the error. Oh, you put the colon in the year. So I've done that myself. It's a habit because we see it. But this is a visuals. What is it? Not visual. IntelliJ thing. So when you see Vin colon here, this is the IntelliJ is doing for you. You don't actually have to type this. So just get rid of the year colon. Oh no, get rid of year as well. You don't need to tell it. It's going to automatically put that in because it's just letting you know that's what that is. This is IntelliJ being nice to letting you know what each value is being pushed in as, so you can match up the values, right? Make sure it's matched. That's why I was able to notice that our year was not right when I tried to add another comma. So, all good?
Yeah, thanks.
You're not the first to do it, and you won't be the last. We see those little things pop up. We get the habit to want to type them ourselves, even though they're not needed. All right, we just go back to the code again, back to my screen again. And then what we're going to do, the last thing I'm going to do, though, that I want to show is this, github.com. That's not .com. God dang it. I'm missing buttons now. Where are you sending me? Oh, God. Kill that. Great. GitHub.cm is a virus thing for those who mistype. Just what we need to know. So be very careful when typing GitHub. All right, new repo. Java. CH11. Cohort 11, actually do that. Cohort. Repo. And I believe IntelliJ has a way to integrate the GitHub. I don't use it. I like using the terminal. It makes me look more codey. I also got to figure out what this keeps popping up for. I did something to my terminal. I don't know what. All right, do this though. I also got to remind myself to now refer to main, not master. It's all good.
Cliff, speaking of which, is that main like a have to be thing? Or can you still use master?
You can rename main to master if you want, and none of my original repos have been updated. So that was something that people were saying that Microsoft might try to do, or that GitHub might try to do, is that they were going to change all existing master branches to main. They have not. All my existing masters are still master.
Yeah, mine too.
So it's apparently moving forward that GitHub is going to recommend using main as the main branch. But if you want to, you can still initialize and start your code with master if you want. If you do that, you have to update this code to say master here and master there.
Yeah, because that's what I've been doing and ahead of time. Like I just never switched it to main. I didn't know if that was if it's best practice now to use main. If if anyone will look at you sideways if you don't use main or anything like that at like an interview or anything like that.
Right.
They cared.
Gotcha. No. Again, most companies don't really care too much. I get that it has to do with the Black Lives Matter movement and trying to remove all references to slave and stuff. My only, just a developer, the defense of is that master slave kind of terminologies have been used mostly just because of how devices worked. That's what the terminology came from. In the past, you had master and slave devices because that is kind of the relationship those things had. It had nothing to do with the slavery systems. It's just those terms did actually have some actual meaning behind them. And the way old devices worked is, yes, you had master devices and slave devices that only worked because they were working for that main device. So they were using the terms correctly in that time, but those terms have become tainted. So I can understand them wanting to remove them because the terms are tainted. So is it one of those items where it's like it was unnecessary change? Kind of, but I'm also not opposed to it either. -M. Our class. Right, now I can paste that in. All right. I'll post this URL into the classroom and you'll have access to this code. So you need to look over it at any time. And so after every class, I will be pushing up the changes to our code. All of our code will be in here under different packages, under different folders. Everything we code in class, you'll have access on this one repo so you can take a look at it. You should never, ever, ever copy and paste my code. What you can do though is clone my repo down or download the repo if you ever need to use it to start an assignment I give. That if I assign something to you and your code is a little different from mine because you've decided to use it as a playground, you can always download my code from that point so you can start on the assignment from the exact same point we were in class. What I would recommend if you are going to do any sort of play on this code, make a branch. So that way you can always go back to the main branch to then follow along in class. Sound good? All right. Also, I wouldn't recommend forking this. So that's one of the first things I'm going to point out for GitHub purposes. If you fork a repo, any commits to that repo do not generate green squares. So that is one key item that I want to make sure everyone knows because that is something that students have lost out green squares before. Any repos that are forked, you do not get green squares for those unless you send a pull request to the original repo and they accept it to their main. Second item about green squares, only commits that go to your main branch count. Now, of course, that means that they can be post-dated though. So if you have a branch that you've been committing to all week, as soon as you merge that branch to your main, all the green squares trigger. So do be aware of that though. Those things I do want to make sure people are clear on. Sound good? All right, I think we're good for today. Yep. For your challenge again, for your challenge tonight, continue like just updating your car class. Make sure to make changes to them. If you feel like yours wasn't doing enough, add more to it. Really just kind of practice this idea of creating your classes. You just want to create a couple classes. Get that under your belt. That creating a class should be second nature. Instantiating a class should be second nature to you. So that is your practice. All right, and there'll be another warm-up challenge tomorrow. All right, I will see you all tomorrow.
Quick question before you go.
Oh, yes.
Because I kind of joined in late with Richard too. And I don't have my own GitHub account with like career devs, and nor do I have a Twitter. Should I make things on my own?
100% make your own. Now, I will say for GitHub and Twitter, make them your own. They should not be. Now, if you want to, I think GitHub allows you to link multiple email accounts. So you can have both your career devs and your personal email on it. For Twitter, I recommend your personal email account. Just again, these should be yours. You should never feel like these items are owned by career devs. They shouldn't be. Just make sure you're managing them and taking care of them. But yeah, as long as you, like you can link them to have multiple email, anything that can take multiple email accounts, link both to it. Yeah, your Twitter should definitely be your personal one, and your GitHub should definitely be personal as well.
Cool. And as far as, because I see people posting in Slack, like their Twitter posts, is that like a requirement?
Yes, actually a good thing. I completely forgot that you guys have been doing this. So we recommend once a day. We recommend once a day that you post a tweet about your most recent commit.
Gotcha.
And some of the specifics behind it is that it should be more focused on what you did and why you did it, not just, oh, I did this. So saying, I wrote some React code. No. Why did you do this project? What did you work on? Why? What are the technologies you learned? Don't post, oh, I watched this video. Like, oh, I learned about blank. You don't want to give the resource that you used because then you're kind of losing your edge from other people because then anyone else can just go watch it. Okay. So you want to talk more about what you're doing, not what in general, like with the technical terminology, to use technical terms. And just try to sound geeky. That's the main thing you're looking for. Sound intellectual, sound like you're actually digging into the code, that you like this stuff. And you should really make sure that it's collaborate or connected to a recent commit. So you should include a GitHub link to your most recent repo that you just committed to. So once a day, make a tweet to the repo that you just committed to and why you did that.
I would actually suggest even linking to the commit itself, because that's something you can do.
Cool. I was wondering if I thought you could do that, but I do want to say definitely. I was actually going to check
on
that.
So the way to go about doing that is to go to the repo that the commit took place on. Click on, there's like at the very top, you'll see it will show like what the most recent commit is. It will say, 15 minutes ago. Yep. So you just click on there, and that is the link to that specific commit.
Cool. There you go. So you can take this link right up here and paste that in your tweet and comment about that commit.
Yeah, I think that's way better than just the repo, because then it gets lost over time.
It can, yeah.
Back like 10 months from now, that project could be done, but you're talking about something
you did a while ago. Yeah, no, I like this idea. And I would definitely recommend doing that. You want to do it once a day. We just require you to post it in Slack on days we have class.
Okay.
So you don't necessarily have to post it in Slack on non-class days, but if you want to, go for it, because that means your classmates can go and like it. You can share you can give each other props and stuff. So you're only required to share it on Twitter, on Slack on class days right before class starts.
Nice. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely good to clarify that. So yeah, what you want to create now, just to make sure it's clear, create your GitHub account, create your Twitter account, and if you don't have a HackerRank account yet, you also want to head over to HackerRank and create an account here. And just for everyone as well, you also want to sign up for this item here called 30 Days of Code. If you haven't signed up for it now, because unfortunately what this thing does is it actually puts time locks on each challenge. Each of the 30 challenges will be unlocked every 24 hours. We actually hate that. So we have you sign up for it now so that by the time you actually start working on this, because this is going to be given to you guys for Java, all this stuff is for Java. So sign up for this now so that by the time we get to it, most of them should already be unlocked. So you just kind of go through them at your own pace. You can do a couple a day if you want, or one a day. But at least you're not being forced to wait, is my key item. I hate being put behind a time gate. So if I'm on a roll and I'm kind of in the mood, I want to keep going. Don't want to be blocked.
Wait, there was a delay on that?
Yeah, at least there used to be.
I mean, I completed all 30 days of those in just 3.
If you signed up for it earlier, then it would have been already unlocked. But maybe they've removed that. That'd be great if they finally did, because when I signed up for this, it was time locked. And for the last several cohorts, it was time locked. So if there's someone that hasn't signed up for it, please sign up for it now and let me know if there's a time gate on it.
Yeah, I
Great
was
to
also because I remember you saying, Arniel, that you were done, and I was like, wait, it took me a whole month. I had to wait.
So it is possible maybe Arniel, you maybe clicked on it before and it went through the 30 days, because as soon as you click on it once, it's unlocked. Mine's fully unlocked because I did this. I signed up for this like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. So all mine are unlocked. So you could have clicked on it at any point and it would have started the timers on all the challenges. But yeah, if someone else can please go to HackerRank. If you scroll down, I think it comes down here in this tutorial area. You see the tutorials area down at the bottom. You should see it here. You want to click on that, activate it, and let me know if there's timers for the challenges. That would be great, because I'm very curious if the timers are still there.
Oh, one more thing for whoever does this. Please do be aware, these challenges are horribly out of order. Okay? They're going to ask you to do very difficult things and then explain what a string is at the very end.
Seriously?
Yeah.
When did they change it up? Yeah, we're going to touch base on this a little more later. You're not assigned to do it yet. What I will say is on each of these, one thing to do before you actually work on the problem is to actually click on this tutorial tab, watch the video, read through the instructions, because this was actually designed around Java. So the video is going to showcase Java, and this information is going to give you some tips and key items that you might need for the challenge.
Wait, was that there before?
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe you didn't notice it. They don't point it out. Yeah, they don't point it out. There's actually a walkthrough guide, so it does teach you Java through the process. So I was worried that you might not have noticed that.
Cliff, one other thing. Also, I don't know. I know Richard doesn't, because we were talking about today at work, but anyone who is creating their GitHubs, someone, I don't know if you can or if Arnell, but someone's going to walk through setting up linking it to their IDE.
SSH.
With that SSH, yeah.
We can work on that either tomorrow or on Thursday, or if there's someone here who would like to set up a tutorial on that and do it themselves, I'd be game for that. So if someone wants to set up a tutorial. The main thing I can tell you though, if you want to do it now and don't want to wait for us to try to do a walkthrough, simply do GitHub SSH. They actually created a brilliant walkthrough for it for all systems. Their walkthrough is very, very specific because it's something everyone needs. So right there, connecting to GitHub with SSH, they'll walk you through creating an SSH key, getting it printed, and putting it into your GitHub account. So they have a very specific, very detailed walkthrough, because this is a very common asked item. So if you don't have your SSH, and I highly recommend using SSH so you don't have to constantly type in your username and password whenever you want to just make a commit and push. So I highly recommend using SSH. Go for it.
The 30 days of code is time locked, so.
Right, so Arniel, it most likely means you just clicked on it at some point and activated the timers.
I have no idea what happened.
No clue. or you end up hacking it without realizing it. It's all good. Any other questions then? Yep. Cullen called it before he said it. Nice. Same
I just
mind.
slipped. I don't know what happened.
Breaking the fourth wall, glitch in the matrix. All right. Any other questions? Think we got everything? Awesome. Okay. Oh, and actually, I'll give one more thing. If you are not familiar with GitHub and are not used to it, this is how I learned how to do. Damn you! I didn't type it all. Get immersion. This is the website I used to learn.
Ooh.
So this is the website I used. They probably changed it a bit, and I'm hoping they made it for the better. But yeah, it walks you through by typing things out. They have you type Ruby. Don't worry about it. They're not teaching you it. They're just using that as a language because it's simple to understand what's happening. But they walk you through all the commands. This is how I learned Git. You don't actually have to go through the whole thing. You go through about half of it, and you have the Git knowledge you need.
Nice.
Once they start talking about tagging and checkpointing and stuff like that, then you're fine. You have the basic knowledge. So I can share that. So, and if anyone else feels like their Git knowledge is not too impressive, you can use that too. Gabe, I think you broke the gravity.
Yeah. I'm just playing around.
No kidding. All right, I think we're good for today. All right, I gotta go touch base with my other cohort now. We definitely went a little over. Dang it, about an hour for them. I go check in with them, see how they're doing. I will talk to everyone tomorrow. Have a good day.
Have a good day, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Good day.
Good night, everyone.